I win the die roll and start us off. I draw, play a tapped Lush Oasis, and deal 1 to Max. Mika's got a command tower for turn, and passes. Max draws, plays a swamp, and ships it to Ian. Ian's turn has him drawing and playing a tapped Idyllic Beachfront. I've got a Festering Gulch for turn, and it comes in tapped and deals 1 to Ian. I then cast Soul Ring and pass. Mika draws, plays a swamp, and casts Charcoal Diamond. Max's turn has him playing a Plains, and then paying 2 for a Felwar Stone, and passing. Ian's turn has him playing a Plains, and then casts an Angelic Shield. He passes after it resolves. I draw, play a Reflecting Pool, and cast Spelunking. I draw a card as it enters, and put to field a Survivor's Encampment, and then pass after that. Mika draws and plays an Island, and then pays 2 for an Arcane Signet. He follows up with Grazilax, and passes after that. Max has got a Rogue's Passage for turn, and he casts Rhea Ivor, and passes. Ian draws, plays a Blasted Landscape, and then brings out Rasaad. He passes after his commander resolves. My turn has me drawing and playing a Relic of Legends. I then cast Oracle of Moldiah. I sadly don't find a land on top though, so I pass after that. Mika draws and casts his commander, Captain Angathrod, and he goes to combat once it resolves. He hits me for 3 with Grazilax, and I mill my top 3. Mika then moves to his end step, and he steals Kona Rescue Beastie from my graveyard, and he puts it onto field, and then passes. Max draws and goes to combat. He puts Rhea Ivor's trigger on herself, and swings it at Ian. Ian declares no blocks, and Max prevents the damage, making 3 mites instead. After combat, Max casts Feast of the Victorious Dead, and then sacrifices a mite to help cast Corrupted Conviction, drawing 2 cards. Max then moves to his end step, gains a life, and puts a +1/+1 counter onto Rhea Ivor from the feast. Ian draws and plays a Dungeon Descent, and follows up with a Birthday Escape, getting tempted by the ring. He makes his commander the Ring Bearer, and he then casts a Tasseled Dromedary. Going to combat, Ian swings Rasaad at me. I can't block, and take the 4, and Ian passes. I've got a Woodland Cemetery for turn off the top, and I then cast 3 visits to go and find an overgrown tomb. I then play an Echoing Depths, and have it come in as a copy of Command Tower. I follow up with Archelos, and once he's out, cast an Entish Restoration, finding 2 untapped basics to put to field. I then tap Archelos with the Relic of Legends, and I pass my turn to Mika. Mika draws and goes to combat. He swings the Captain at me, Grazilax at Ian, and Kona at Max. None of us block, with Mika drawing 3, and Max and I then mill our cards based on how much damage we take. After combat, Mika then puts No Mercy into play from Kona's trigger, and then casts Sir Conrad. Moving to his end step, he gets Ian's Dragon Eye Savants, and passes. Max draws and goes to combat, once more putting Rhea Ivor's trigger on itself. He swings Rhea Ivor at Ian, and 2 mites go at Mika, with neither of them blocking. Max's 2 mites die to No Mercy, with all of Mika's opponents taking 2 from Sir Conrad. And with Rhea Ivor connecting and the damage being prevented, Max gets to make 4 new Might tokens. In his post-combat main phase, Max plays a Plains, and then casts Harsh Sustenance and targets Sir Conrad. Max gains 5 life, and Sir Conrad dies, and going to his end step, Max puts 2 more +1/+1 counters onto Rhea Ivor thanks to the feast, and he passes after that. Ian draws and plays a Temple of Enlightenment. He then plays a Seasoned Dungeoneer and takes the initiative, going to find a basic from entering the first room. Going to combat, Ian swings Rasaad at me, and the Dromedary at Mika, doubling both their toughnesses since he has the initiative. I take 10, and Mika takes 8, and the Dromedary dies from the No Mercy trigger. With nothing else, Ian passes. I draw and play a Sun-Scorched Desert, which comes in and deals 1 to Max. I then cast Nature's Lore, going to find a forest, and pass. Mika draws and goes to combat, swinging Kona at me. Grazilax goes at Ian, and the Captain goes at Max. Before damage, I cast Hagra Mauling and target the Captain, and the creatures then connect, with me taking 4 and Ian taking 3. This has Mika drawing 2, and takes the initiative, going to find a swamp from the first room, and then playing it in second main phase. Mika also plays a Hedonist Trove, and exiles my graveyard. He then casts Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and upticks the Walker, drawing a card and milling Max. After that, Mika moves to discard, and passes. Max draws and plays a Swamp, and then casts Elenda, the Dusk Rose. He follows it up with Norn's Wellspring, and goes to combat. He swings Rhea Ivor at Ian, and the mites go at Mika. Mika responds, casting Sink into Stupor, and targets Rhea Ivor. He then blocks a mite with the Dragon's Eye Savants. Mika takes the hit for the 3 other mites though, and Max gets the initiative, going to find a Plains. After that, moving to his end step, Max gets to put 3 counters onto Elenda from the Feast trigger, and passes. Ian draws and plays an island, and then casts an Aarakocra Sneak, regaining the initiative. He puts 2+1/+1 counters onto Rasaad, and then plays a Sword Coast Sailor, going to combat. Ian swings Rasaad at Max for 12 unblockable damage because of the Sword Coast Sailor and Rasaad's ability to double his toughness, and Max takes the hit. With nothing else, Ian passes. I draw, play a Swamp off the top, and then cast Moriette, having it come in as a copy of Spelunking. I then cast an Ancient Green Warden, and then play Mortuary Mire off the top. I Surveil twice, and bin 2 lands from it. I then tap Archelos to the Relic of Legends, and pass to Mika. Mika draws and plays a command tower from my exiled cards with his Hedonist Trove, and then recasts his commander. He moves to combat, and swings Kona at Ian, and Grasslax at Max. Ian trades with a Sneak, but Max takes 3, and mills 3, while Mika draws a card from Grasslax. In his post-combat main phase, Mika then upticks Jace, drawing a card, and milling Max for another 2. He then moves to his end step, and he gets to steal Seraph of the Masses from Max's graveyard, and then passes turn. Max draws and plays Rhea Ivor, and then plays a Plains for turn. Going to combat, Max puts the Rhea Ivor trigger on Elenda, and then swings her at Ian for 9. Ian declines the block, with Max making 9 mites since the damage is prevented, and with nothing else, Max passes. Ian's turn has him moving further into the Undercity, dealing 5 to Mika with the initiative, and then draws her turn. He plays a Plains, and then casts Midnight Pathlighter, and goes to combat. He swings Rasaad at me, and I can't block, and die to commander damage. Ian gets a Venture trigger from the Midnight Pathlighter, and as he moves further, draws a card from the Undercity. He then passes to Mika. Mika draws and plays an island, and he then moves to combat. He swings his 2 Horrors at Ian, and the Seraph of Masses at Max. Neither of them block, with Ian milling 6, and Mika drawing 2. After combat, Mika kicks a Maddening Cacophony, and each opponent mills half their library. Mika then passes and takes Zatalpa from Max's graveyard, and Max activates Norn's Wellspring to draw a card. Max draws, plays a Plains, and goes to combat. He puts Rhea Ivor's trigger on herself, and swings it and Elenda at Ian, and the 10 mites go at Mika. Ian sacrifices his Angelic Shield, bouncing Elenda, and declares no blocks on Rhea Ivor, while Mika dies from the Toxic and Poison. Max then gets to make 3 more Mite tokens, and then casts a by invitation only, choosing 3. They each sacrifice 3 creatures, and Max then puts 6+1/+1 counters onto Rhea Ivor and gains 6 life thanks to the Feast trigger at the end of turn. Ian finishes the Undercity on his upkeep, revealing his top 10. He gets to keep an Adhikar Sentinel from it, and then draws for turn. He plays a Soul Ring in his main phase, and continues by casting Expel the Interlopers to wipe the board. Max gets a lot of scry triggers from his Norn's Wellspring, and after finishing all of his scries, activates it to draw a card. Ian then passes turn. Max draws and casts Minthara, and once she's resolved, casts Commissar Severina's Reign. After that, Max passes. Ian continues through the Undercity, restarting it and getting a basic off of it, and then draws for turn. He plays an island, and then casts Brainstorm. He follows up with an Aegis Turtle, and then Rasaad, and passes after that. Max draws, and activates the Wellspring again to draw again. He casts a Light Knight's Conquest, sacrificing his Felwar Stone and Feast to help bring back Abyssal Persecutor and a Blood Vial Purveyor. Max also gets an experience counter, and he passes after that. Ian scries 2 from the Undercity, and then draws for turn. He plays Slaughter the Strong to wipe Max's board out outside of Minthara, and he goes to combat. Ian swings Rasaad at Max, but Max responds with a Devouring Light to exile it. Ian's second main phase then has him recasting Rasaad, and he passes after that. Max draws, and then draws again with the Wellspring, before recasting Elenda. He follows it up with a Cranial Plating, and passes. Ian progresses through the Undercity, making a treasure and drawing. He then goes to combat, and swings Rasaad at Max again. Max takes the hit for 6, and Ian simply passes after that. Max draws and plays a swamp, and then draws once more from the wellspring. He moves the cranial plating onto Elenda, and he goes to combat. He swings Elenda at Ian for 4, but Ian is ready with a Path to Exile, and targets the vampire. Max responds to this by casting a Village Rites, sacrificing Elenda to draw 2 and make 4 vampire tokens. Max's second main phase then has him casting a Manifold Key, which he uses to untap the Norn's Wellspring, and then activates it to draw again. Max then sacrifices a vampire to help cast Rite of Oblivion, and targets Rasaad, and Ian responds with a Faithful Mending. Ian draws 2, gains 2, and discards 2, but can't find a counterspell to defend his commander, so Rasaad gets exiled instead. Max then moves to equip the cranial plating onto a vampire token, and passes after that. Ian makes a 4/1 skeleton from the initiative, and then draws. He then plays the second Doctor, and once he's out, a Moonsilver Key. Ian then cracks the key, going to find a Plains, which he then plays for turn, and then passes, getting the Doctor trigger, which Max refuses, and Ian draws a card. Max draws and activates the Wellspring again, drawing another card. He recasts Rhea Ivor, and then casts a Mirage Mirror, going to combat. Max gets to put the Rhea Ivor trigger on its equipped vampire, and swings it at Ian. Ian blocks with the Skeleton token, which has Max gaining 7 life. Max also gets an experience counter, and he passes after that. Ian once more completes the Undercity, and this time keeps Sherrix from it, and then moves to draw for turn. He casts a Scroll of Isildur, stealing Mirage Mirror as it comes in, and he has Sherrix become his ring bearer once more. Ian then recasts Rasaad, and he goes to combat. He swings the Aegis Turtle at Max for 10, who blocks the Vampire token, and gains 4 life. After that, Ian moves to his end step, and Max refuses to draw from the Doctor, while Ian draws, and passes turn. Max's turn has him flashing back the Rite of Oblivion, and targeting Rasaad. Sacrificing a Vampire token is part of its cost. He then activates the Wellspring, drawing a card, and then casts a Grafted Butcher. Max then continues by playing a Tainted Field, and then casts a Priest of Forgotten Gods. He moves to combat after that. Max puts the Rhea Ivor trigger on itself, and swings her at Ian. Ian double blocks, and loses the Doctor to Rhea Ivor. Max's second main phase then has him casting Skrelev's Hive, and gets an experience counter, and passes. Ian restarts the Undercity, going to find a basic, and then draws for turn. He stuns Max's Butcher and Priest with the Scroll of Isildur, and then plays an island for turn, and recasts Rasaad. Going to combat, Ian then swings his Sherrix at Max, doubling its toughness to 40, and since Max can't block because it's the ring bearer, is taken out, and Ian wins the game. This video is brought to you in part by my sponsors. Card Conduit is the easiest way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether your collection is sorted or not, there's an option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% higher than just using one buy list, you can rest assured you get the best bang for your buck, and you can get further savings of 10% on your service fees by using my affiliate link down below or the promo code MTGMudsta. 401 Games is Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. With a huge selection of cards and sealed product, first-time buyers can save 5% off their first order by using the code MTGMudsta, and returning shoppers can also use the code GOBLINS5 to save 5% on orders of singles. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. You can use the promo code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order.
Alright, that was awful close.
Ian, you won. What did you?
I did win.
What did you got to do? Got to do the game review.
That was very grindy. Max really worked to stop me, and it made for a very interesting game. But the
1v1, so
basically, the initiative was clutch, and Chandrix popping out at the end was nice. Having a way to copy Chandrix was nice.
Yeah.
How did it feel smacking someone with 40?
That's exactly what I want to do in any game of Magic.
With a 3-powered creature.
With a 3-powered creature.
That's the trick.
This is all about the booties. I like that.
Exactly. Max, you were the second last. How was Rhea Ivor?
I did not want to win with Infect, but eventually, I kind of had to.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep a board long enough to maximize the effect of the tokens.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1v1 mode, it was just like board wipe removal, setup removal. Oh crap, 40. And dies.
Yeah.
We hit the reset button a lot.
Yeah.
There's 3 board wipes once there was only 2 of you left.
Yeah. If I would have survived that, and I didn't count as mana for the commander, I had a draw and removal on board.
Yeah.
But that was my.
I mean, the One Ring making basically Skulk, I think it is, or whatever the mechanic is, where you can get underneath.
Yep.
Was huge.
My
that was a big
counterproductive on this.
Big thing for you.
Yeah.
Mika.
Let's get this out of the way. Grazilax is a fantastic card, allowing me to draw an additional 2 to 3 cards a turn.
Yeah.
Probably kept me in the game a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I missed a couple land drops, even all of those draws. And then the stuff in my hand was really big, and being forced to tap my lands when they came in, thanks to our dear friend here, really slowed my game plan down. So I couldn't quite keep up. I had a couple really cool plays, just short on mana and then short on time with a couple clutch kills.
Yeah.
So I still had to mill some cards, just didn't quite get the payoffs I was looking for. But I'll bring the deck back eventually.
Yeah. And Archelos? I'm gonna get butchered in the comments. I mean, like, it's super sweet. I love the ability to like untap lands that come into play tapped. I got really focused on that Cultivator Colossus again, and then I only realized that I had to have a land in hand to be able to do this whole thing, and I didn't. And
you didn't see that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Ron did, yeah.
Yeah. Which now they know about, Max. Yeah, that's helpful. That's so good. You've shattered the illusion.
Yeah, perfectly.
But otherwise, it was pretty sweet. I just wish I had got some of the payoffs, like Retreat to Hagra, and the Iridescent Vine Lasher to start blasting people in the face with the lands. But sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
The setup was there.
Yep, that's it. This is a great game. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Let us know what you think.
This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.